It's still in the conversation because of its ranking, the remaining community interest, and the simple fact that mid-cap tokens with established presence continue to cycle in and out of attention even after extended drawdowns. If this is useful, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a comment with your honest take on Beat. I actually read them. Looking at ratings and signals, a lot of the technical scanners and community sentiment have leaned cautious to outright negative for an extended period. You will see a mix of hold and sell readings, especially from tools that track the longer term trend and the position relative to key moving averages. Funding and open interest in the derivatives markets have flipped around, but the short term outlook from pure chart based sources remains defensive until price can reclaim and hold above recent resistance levels with convincing volume. There is more coverage for Audiera than for lower ranked names because of its ranking, but the consensus from technical and sentiment tools has stayed measured rather than strongly bullish. Here's the real debate. Is BEAT actually undervalued at these levels, or is this a value trap after a large post-run decline? One side points to the current market cap ranking, the distance from previous highs, the remaining community interest, and the idea that mid-cap tokens can re-rate sharply if attention returns to the broader sector. They argue that if the project continues to maintain relevance and capital rotates back into names of this size, these levels could look reasonable in hindsight. The other side says look at the chart and the market structure. Many mid-cap tokens that peaked during stronger market conditions have struggled to hold value once attention faded. Volume and momentum have been soft for long stretches, and the market has consistently treated BEAT as a lower priority name despite its ranking. What's going on with Audiera right now? The chart has been under pressure for a long stretch. Sell signals keep appearing on the higher time frames, and yet some people still argue this thing is somehow undervalued at these levels. How do those two views even sit together? Let's talk about it. Audiera is a mid-cap crypto project trading under the BEAT ticker. It currently ranks around the mid-60s by market cap with moderate daily volume, and the price has been trading near the levels you're seeing after a multi-month decline from higher levels. Like many names in this range, it sits at the intersection of remaining narrative interest and pure price action, with the market still debating whether the current levels represent opportunity or continued weakness. On the technical side, the bigger picture remains a clear long-term downtrend from the much higher levels reached earlier. Price has spent extended periods making lower highs and lower lows, with recent action testing support near multi-month levels. Short-term bounces have occurred but have consistently failed to reverse the larger structure. Momentum indicators have been mixed to weak on the higher timeframes, often hovering in neutral to oversold territory without producing strong sustained recoveries. Moving averages on the daily and weekly still lean bearish, and volume has been relatively subdued outside of occasional spikes. Short term, it feels more like a weak consolidation or bounce inside a larger corrective structure than a clean trend reversal. You can argue there is some resilience when price holds the recent lows, but the overall structure still looks heavy. Nobody knows which way this resolves. The chart is still fighting the narrative, the token continues to hold a mid-cap ranking, and the market remains selective about which names in this range it rewards. So the real question is simple. Is this the kind of project that can finally break out of its long underperformance and re-rate higher, or are we just watching another mid-cap token settle into a prolonged period of low relative interest while people argue about valuation? Bull case versus bear case is fairly clear. Best case, broader market risk appetite returns, the project maintains or grows relevance, and price manages to reclaim key resistance levels and start building a higher base. In that scenario, you could see a meaningful recovery toward previous intermediate highs over a longer horizon. Worst case is the opposite. Volume stays muted relative to peers, relative performance continues to lag, and the downtrend simply grinds lower toward new cycle lows. In that scenario, the undervalued talk just becomes background noise while price continues to underperform. Short term, the picture still looks more consolidative and reactive than impulsive. enough. You need to see stronger volume and a clean break of the recent resistance cluster before the short-term bias flips with any real confidence. Longer term, it comes down to whether Audiera can convert its current ranking and remaining interest into sustained demand and relative outperformance for the BEAT token. That's the only path that turns these levels into something more constructive instead of just another extended consolidation or grind lower. That's the classic trap setup. The name still carries some recognition, the narrative still exists on paper, but the market keeps assigning it a lower valuation while attention stays elsewhere. Retail often gets caught here, buying the mid-cap recovery argument, while the larger trend remains downward or sideways. Risks are meaningful. Volatility is still present. A broader risk-off move in crypto or continued rotation away from mid-cap tokens can pressure the price further. Downside remains open if the recent support zone breaks and the downtrend simply continues. Retail traders love the long-term recovery story and end up holding through multi-month or multi-year underperformance. Liquidity is solid relative to pure microcaps, but still thinner than the very top names, so larger moves can still happen quickly. There's also the structural risk that comes with any mid-cap. The narrative has to keep generating new attention, or the token simply fades relative to the broader market.